Welcome into Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. I'm Meghan Payton. We want to thank all of our new subscribers here at Seahawks Today. Give a few shout outs as well. Thank you to Joel Hanses, BrowFurrowed, Mountain View Community Church, Scott Bailey. We are very appreciative of all of you guys for tuning in here to Seahawks Today. I promise we are here to keep you updated. If you have not already, go to youtube.com/Seahawks TV or press that big red button if you want to stay up to date on your favorite team in the NFL. All right, so now we do know that the Seahawks season is officially over. So what's next? Of course, talking about 2022. Here at Seahawks Today, we're going to have free agent segments. We're going to have draft segments. But today we are going to talk trade targets. So before we get into some guys that I think could make for an interesting situation for Seattle, let's talk real quickly about what the Seahawks need. Obviously, when you have a losing season, stuff needs to change. That's the reality. And I think that before we even go through the needs, I'm going to just point out some important dates looking at 2022. So March 1st through the 7th, that's the NFL Combine. We'll be looking at that for some key draft targets. March 16th, that is officially when free agency and the trade period begins. So that's when the guys on the Seahawks that are going to be free agents, that's when they officially become a free agent. That's also when trades can happen. And April 28th through the 30th, that is the NFL draft. So guys, the season might be over, but there's plenty more stuff coming up. And I think that the Seahawks trade targets is something that we can start on, because maybe it would be time for Seattle to trade for a star player. Now, obviously, Seahawks don't have the best things to offer, meaning draft picks, because they did give away their first round pick for Jamal Adams. But however, you can always give up some of your future draft picks back in 2023, 2024. But first, let's talk about what the Seahawks need. Now, here's my list. I think offensive line help, that's for sure. A defensive back, maybe. Definitely in the cornerback area, I think that would be nice. If they re-sign Quandre Diggs, then we're probably pretty set at safety. A backup QB. Now, this one's interesting. We're going to talk Geno Smith here in a little bit. Defensive line help, even though this defense is improving, I still think that we could get a good pass rusher, someone to help out this defensive line, and maybe a tight end, depending on what they do with Gerald Everett and Will Dissly. So I've got some guys that I think that the Seahawks could trade for. It would be very interesting and make the season a lot more fun. So before I get into my picks, our pinned comment for today's show is for you to go to the comments right now and name me just one player that the Seahawks should trade for. Take advantage of the ad break if you get it right now. Go debate in the comments and let me know who you want in Seattle. All right, guys, the first guy I'm going to talk about is Stephon Tuitt, defensive lineman for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You may have forgotten about him because he has not played this whole season. He is dealing with a knee injury, but more, I think, likely to the reason he hasn't played has been because of the tragic passing of his brother. We have not seen Stephon Tuitt. Mike Tomlin has pretty much avoided talking about this situation. I think it is way more of a personal reason. But when Tuitt is healthy and when he is mentally okay, he is a fantastic defensive lineman and someone that can really dramatically change a defense. The Steelers were definitely missing him this season. In 2021, he had a standout year. 45 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 11 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Now, I could see the Steelers moving on from him because A, he is expensive. That's the reality of him. B, they do have a pretty solid defensive line right now. Clearly, they've got star players like TJ Watt, Cam Hayward. Now, maybe Stephon Tuitt isn't ready to come back into the league. I don't know. So clearly you would want that clarification before trying to trade for a guy like Tuitt. But I would love to see him in Seattle. I think that this would give a really good spark to the Seahawks defense that, yes, is improving, but add a guy like Tuitt, and I think it takes it to that next caliber. So before I get into other guys, I'm asking you right now, should Seattle make a move for Stephon Tuitt? I like the idea. If he's down to play next year, I say go for it. Type Y for yes if you agree with me, or type N for no if you want to pass, and here's some other options. The next guy on our list is Calvin Ridley, another guy we have not seen in a bit. Trade rumors are sparking up about him, though, now that the Falcons season is officially over. If you do not remember, Calvin Ridley stepped away in October for mental health reasons. Now, the thing with Ridley is he would be expensive and he would most likely require a first-round pick. Now, I don't know really if the Seahawks need another dominant receiver because they do have a great wide receiver room with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. But, you know, Calvin Ridley could be another third great addition. I do think it would be great to take out Freddie Swain. You put Ridley in, and now you've got probably the most dominant wide receiver room in the league. So, yes, it is not a priority for the Seattle Seahawks to get a wide receiver. However, it is very intriguing as these rumors come up and you start thinking about what's Ridley going to do. Is he going to come back? Because he did step away indefinitely. Who knows if he even will be wanting to come back into the league. I know that the league sure misses him because if you look at what he did and throughout the 4 years of his career, it's been very impressive. Now, we only saw 5 games from him in 2021, but he still was able to put up 281 yards. I think his most standout year was in 2020 with over 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, 90 receptions as a whole. So it does make me think, hey, it might not be realistic, but if they could get him, why not add another great guy into this Seahawks wide receiver room? All right, guys, so I have something fun for you here at Chat Sports. If you go to chatsports.com/Seahawks hats, we've got some great hats on sale for you guys to take advantage of. There is some great ones here, but my favorite one is clearly the new era throwback. I tell you guys this all the time. I love this one, but more important than this one, there is actually a beanie. I know it's chilly over there in Seattle that you can get up to 50% off, and it's a limited time deal. This means that this offer will expire in 2 days. So if you want the cool beanie for $20, go to chatsports.com/Seahawks hats. Jump on this deal because you only got 2 days left. All right, we're going to switch back over to defense for a sec. Another guy I have on here is Marcus Peters. Now, we talk about this cornerback room and talk about the way that it's evolved, and it's been very impressive, I will say, for the Seattle Seahawks just dealing with what they've dealt with. Marcus Peters, though, another intriguing name. He missed the 2021 season after suffering that torn ACL in the preseason. Now, again, he was acquired by the Ravens during a trade from the Rams back in 2019. Now, the reason the Ravens would maybe be interested in doing this is because, again, it would save them a decent amount of cap space by trading him, and they're going to need to work on Lamar Jackson's deal here coming up. I don't think that they would choose to get rid of Marcus Peters because he's an elite corner in this league. However, I could see Baltimore biting the bullet here in order to get Lamar Jackson paid. I do like Marcus Peters. However, I have some names that I think you guys might be a little bit more interested in. Next guy I have for you guys is quarterback Gardner Minshew. Now, before you get upset with me, I am not saying that I think Gardner Minshew is here to replace Russell Wilson, but he would be an idea as a backup. Geno Smith, as we know, is going to be a free agent. So Seahawks could choose to move on from him or they could choose to re-sign him. Now, if you haven't heard by now, Geno Smith was just recently arrested for what they're saying was a DUI. Now, this does have some impact on whether or not the Seahawks would re-sign him. I'm not saying it's make or break, but as we know, DUIs typically lead to a suspension, and it can be up to 4 games. Now, this normally doesn't get put into place till a little bit later in the season. The NFL has to go through their process. Who knows when it would actually take into effect? But I do think it's not great for Geno. He's fighting for a spot on this roster, and having that on his record, literally, is not helpful for Geno Smith. So maybe they want to move on from him and check out Gardner Minshew, who was a starter in this league, but most recently backing up at Philadelphia. He in 2021, obviously not playing a ton, but came in last week while the Eagles were benching their backups. He hasn't done much, but 439 yards in the couple games that he has played. I don't love Minshew as a starter, but again, I think he would be a good backup to Russell Wilson. Now, of course, Geno Smith is a guy that I do like because he knows the Seahawks offense. So ideally you stick with who you have, but I got to be honest, I do think that the DUI has a little bit of a factor, because what if Russ gets hurt? And then those 4 games that he's suspended are the games that Russell Wilson's hurt. So it's something to at least think about. So my question to you guys is, should the Seahawks move on from Geno? If you think so, type M for move on or type K for keep. And of course, guys, here at Seahawks Today, these are things that we'll keep you updated with. I'm sure more Geno Smith news is going to come out. We'll have Quandre Digg updates for you guys. All this to come here at Seahawks Today. So if you have not already, turn your notifications on. If you're not subscribed, go subscribe right now by going to youtube.com/Seahawks TV. Press the big red button, stay in the know. But we right now are talking NFL trade targets for the Seahawks. All right, the last guy I have for you guys is probably my favorite option, would be Xavien Howard from the Miami Dolphins. This would be fantastic if somehow the Seahawks were able to pull off getting Xavien Howard. It would dramatically change their defense just as a whole. There's no doubt about it. I'd say Howard has been arguably the best cornerback in this league over the past 2 seasons. This year, maybe not as standoutish as last year, but he's also, dealing with a different Dolphins team. And 2020, I mean, he had 10 interceptions. This year he's had 5, but he's someone that is going to require a lot of money. The Dolphins did reconstruct his deal prior to the 2021 season. He made it clear he wasn't very happy in Miami. So this does make me start to think about, hey, what is Howard's plan for 2022? He could try to request a trade. Obviously, we know that the Dolphins head coach was just fired. What's his play? Is he happy about that? Is he upset about it? I know that it didn't seem like Miami was the perfect fit for him. The Seahawks would obviously have to take on that hefty contract, but they do have a lot of cap space, so maybe that would be a guy they would be worth investing in. Now, this cornerback room, we don't want to discredit them because they have, stood out, I think, especially with what they were dealt. Trey Brown injured out for most of the season. He will be coming back, and I think that he will be a guy that will be great for the Seattle Seahawks defense. However, still young, still a rookie, now going to go into his second year. We don't know much about him. DJ Reed, though, becomes a free agent. He's someone I would like the Seahawks to re-sign. But then you throw in a guy like Marcus Peters or Xavien Howard in here, and I mean, they would benefit from a star cornerback. I don't care how great this cornerback room has been. You throw one of those 2 names in this room, and they will definitely improve. And then you've got more options at depth. You saw what the Seahawks went through this season. They had a lot of COVID issues in the cornerback room, a lot of injuries, and they were trying to get guys from the practice squad. We had John Reed out there. We had a lot of guys that you probably haven't heard of playing in the Seahawks games because they did not have much depth at the cornerback room. So I will ask you guys now to pick one of these guys if you could have it your way, and you could have Xavien Howard or Marcus Peters in Seattle. Who are you picking? Type XH for Xavien Howard or MP for Marcus Peters.